The alien ships came on a cold winter morning. They filled the sky like dark clouds, blocking the sun over the city of Seoul. People stopped walking. Cars stopped moving. Everyone looked up at the massive ships that floated silently above them. Minho was eating breakfast when his mother screamed. He ran to the window and saw the ships. His heart beat fast. He was only 25 years old, a simple engineer who fixed machines at a small factory. He never thought he would see something like this. The news spread quickly. The aliens called themselves the Vorak. They had visited many planets before. Earth. They conquered weak species and made them serve. Now they came for humans. A message played on every screen in the world. A tall alien with gray skin and 4 eyes spoke in a cold voice. Humans of Earth, we are the Vorak Empire. Your planet now belongs to us. You will serve us, or you will die. You have 3 days to surrender. The world fell into chaos. Some people cried. Some people fought each other for food and water. Some people prayed. But others refused to give up. Minho's best friend was a woman named Yuna. She worked as a soldier in the Korean army. When the aliens came, she called Minho immediately. "Are you safe?" she asked. "Yes, but for how long?" Minho replied. His voice was shaking. "Come to the army base. We need engineers. We need everyone who can help." Minho did not wait. He kissed his mother goodbye and drove through the empty streets. The sky was still dark with alien ships, but something inside him refused to be afraid anymore. Humans had survived ice ages. Humans had survived diseases. Humans had survived wars. They would survive this too at the army base. Minho met General Taiho. He was an old man with white hair and sharp eyes. He had fought in many battles during his life, but he had never faced an enemy from another world. "They think we are weak," General Taiho said to the soldiers and engineers gathered before him. "They have conquered 100 planets. They have never lost a war, but they have never fought humans." Yuna stood next to Minho. She held her weapon tightly. "What do we know about them?" she asked. A scientist named Sujin stepped forward. She had been studying the alien ships since they arrived. "The Vorak are strong. Their bodies are built for war. One Vorak soldier can lift a car with one hand. Their weapons can destroy buildings in seconds." The room became silent. Fear spread like a cold wind. But Sujin continued, "They have weaknesses too. Their planet is very cold. They cannot handle heat well, and they think slowly. They follow orders, but they cannot adapt quickly." General Taiho nodded. "Humans are different. We are small. We are weak compared to many animals on our own planet. But we survived because we think fast. We work together. We never give up." Minho looked around the room. He saw fear in the eyes of his fellow humans, but he also saw something else. He saw determination. He saw anger. The Vorak made a big mistake. They thought humans would surrender easily. The first attack came at midnight. Vorak soldiers dropped from the ships like rain. They were tall, almost 3 meters high. Their gray skin was like armor. Their 4 eyes glowed red in the darkness. They expected humans to run away. They expected humans to beg for mercy. But the humans did something the Vorak did not expect. They fought back. Yuna led her squad through the streets of Seoul. They moved in the shadows. They attacked and disappeared. They used traps and tricks. The Vorak were confused. Their enemies were supposed to be weak. Their enemies were supposed to surrender. But humans did not surrender. Minho worked through the night. He helped build new weapons. He fixed broken machines. His hands became dirty and his body became tired. But he did not stop. He could not stop. By morning, the humans had destroyed 50 Vorak soldiers. It was a small victory. The Vorak had millions of soldiers. But it was a victory. The Vorak commander watched from his ship. His name was Krone. He had conquered 12 planets. He had never lost a single battle. But for the first time in his life, he felt something strange. He felt worry. "These humans fight like wild animals," one of his officers said. "They do not follow the rules of war." Crone stared at the burning city below. They are nothing. Insects. We will crush them. But deep inside, Crone was not sure anymore. There was something different about these creatures. Something dangerous. They were not like the other species he had conquered. Minho sat on the ground, eating a small piece of bread. Yuna sat next to him. They were both covered in dirt and sweat. "Do you think we can win?" Minho asked. Yuna looked at the sky. The alien ship still floated there, dark and terrible. "I do not know," she said honestly. "But I know one thing. If we die fighting. We are human. That is what we do." Minho smiled. It was a tired smile, but it was real. He thought about all the history he had learned. Humans had always faced impossible enemies. Nature, disease, each other. And somehow, humans always survived. Maybe they would survive this too. The war for Earth had just begun, and humanity was not ready to give up. The last stand of Earth Part 2-3 days passed. The Vorak expected surrender. They received war instead. From every corner of Earth, humans rose to fight. In America, in Africa, in Europe, in Asia, everywhere the Vorak landed, they found resistance. Minho had not slept in 2 days. His eyes were red and his hands were shaking, but he kept working. Sujin, the scientist, had discovered something important. The Vorak ships used a special fuel. If they could destroy the fuel, the ships would fall. "The fuel is stored in the center of each ship," Sujin explained. "It burns at very high temperatures. If we can hit it with enough heat, the ship will explode." General Taiho studied the map on the table. "How do we get inside the ships?" "They have shields. Our weapons cannot break through." Yuna raised her hand. "What if we do not break through? What if we go around?" Everyone looked at her. She walked to the map and pointed at a small ship that had landed outside the city. "The ship is on the ground. It is taking supplies. The shields are down when they load cargo." Minho understood immediately. "We sneak inside. We plant bombs near the fuel. We get out and blow it up." It was a dangerous plan. It was almost a suicide mission. But it was their only chance. General Taiho chose 15 soldiers for the mission. Yuna was one of them. Minho was not a soldier, but he insisted on going. He knew the machines. He knew how to plant the bombs in the right place. "You are an engineer, not a warrior," Yuna said. "I am human," Minho replied. "That makes me a warrior." They moved at night. The Vorak ship was 2 kilometers outside Seoul. It was massive, bigger than a football stadium. Alien soldiers walked around it, loading metal boxes into the cargo bay. The humans moved slowly through the trees. They wore dark clothes and painted their faces black. The Vorak had better eyes than humans in daylight. But at night, in the shadows, humans were almost invisible. A young soldier named Hyun was the first to reach the cargo bay. He signaled to the others. The coast was clear. One by one, the humans slipped inside the ship. The inside of the ship was cold and dark. Strange lights glowed on the walls. The air smelled like chemicals. Minho felt his heart beating in his chest. He had never been inside an alien ship before.
House.
"Stay close," Yuna whispered. "And stay quiet." They walked through metal hallways. Twice they had to hide when Vorak soldiers passed by. The aliens were huge and terrifying, but they did not look down. They did not expect small creatures to hide in the shadows. Humans were good at hiding. Humans had learned to hide from bigger predators long ago. Sujin gave Minho a small device. "This will lead you to the fuel room," she had said. The device beeped softly, guiding him through the ship. After 20 minutes, they found it. The fuel room was a large chamber filled with glowing blue tanks. The tanks hummed with energy. One explosion here would destroy the entire ship. Minho got to work. He attached bombs to the tanks carefully. His hands were steady now. Fear was gone. Only focus remained. Humans detected. The alarm was loud and sudden. Red lights flashed everywhere. Heavy footsteps echoed in the hallways. The Vorak had found them. "Run," Yuna shouted. The soldiers grabbed their weapons and fired at the Vorak, rushing toward them. Minho finished planting the last bomb and ran with the others. The hallways were chaos. Vorak soldiers appeared from every direction. The humans were outnumbered, but they kept moving, kept fighting. Hyan was hit by an alien weapon. He fell to the ground. Another soldier, a woman named Nari, grabbed him and pulled him forward. She was small, but she was strong. Humans were always stronger than they looked. They reached the cargo bay. Daylight was visible outside, but 10 Vorak soldiers blocked the exit. The aliens raised their weapons. "Surrender, humans," the lead Vorak said. "You cannot escape." Yuna looked at her team. 7 soldiers left. 2 were injured. They had no chance against 10 Vorak warriors in a direct fight. But humans never fought fair. Yuna pulled out a small grenade. "Close your eyes." She screamed. The flash grenade exploded with blinding light. The Vorak screamed. Their 4 eyes were more sensitive than human eyes. The light hurt them badly. The humans ran through the blinded aliens. They jumped out of the cargo bay and ran toward the trees. Minho pressed the detonator in his hand. The explosion lit up the night. The Vorak ship broke apart in a ball of blue fire. The sound was louder than thunder. The ground shook like an earthquake. Minho fell to the ground. His ears were ringing. He could not hear anything. But when he looked back, he saw the burning remains of the alien ship. They had done it. They had destroyed a Vorak ship. Yuna helped him stand up. Her face was covered in dirt and blood, but she was smiling. "One down," she said. "Many more to go." When they returned to the base, General Taiho was waiting for them. He had received news from around the world. Other human teams had attacked other Vorak ships. 3 more ships had been destroyed. 12 ships were damaged. The Vorak were shocked. These weak creatures, these humans, were actually hurting them. Commander Kron stood in his command ship, staring at the reports. For ships destroyed, hundreds of soldiers dead. This was not supposed to happen. "They're like insects," he muttered. "But they bite." His officers looked at each other nervously. They had never seen their commander worried before. "Bring more soldiers," Kron ordered. "Burn their cities. Destroy their armies. We will show these humans what happens when they resist the Vorak Empire." But even as he spoke, Kron felt that strange feeling again. The feeling of doubt. The feeling of fear. Humans were not like other species. They did not know how to surrender. They did not know how to give up, and that made them very, very dangerous. The last stand of Earth 1 week had passed since the invasion began. The world was burning. Cities lay in ruins. Millions of people had died. But humanity still fought. The Vorak could not understand it. They had conquered 100 planets. Every species eventually surrendered. Every species eventually accepted their fate. But not humans. Minho sat in an underground bunker. The army base had been destroyed 3 days ago. Now the survivors hid beneath the earth like rats. But even rats could bite. Sujin had been working without rest. Her eyes were dark and tired, but her mind was sharp as ever. She had discovered something that could change everything. "The Vorak have a main control ship," she explained. "It floats above the Pacific Ocean. Every other ship receives orders from there. If we destroy the control ship, the other ships will become confused. They will lose their connection."
How?
General Taiho leaned forward. "How big is this control ship?" "Very big. 10 times bigger than the ships we have destroyed. It has the strongest shields, the strongest weapons." "Then it is impossible," one officer said. "We cannot destroy something that big." Yuna shook her head. "Nothing is impossible. We just need to think differently." Minho had an idea. It was crazy. It was probably suicide. But it might work. "What if we do not attack from outside?" He said. "What if we attack from inside?" Everyone looked at him. He continued. "The Vorak captured human prisoners. They take them to their ships. What if some of us get captured on purpose? What if we carry bombs inside our bodies?" The room became silent. It was the most dangerous plan anyone had ever suggested. General Taiho stood up slowly. You are asking soldiers to sacrifice themselves? I am asking for volunteers, Minho said. I will be the first. Yuna grabbed his arm. No, you are not a soldier. You are an engineer. Engineers solve problems, Minho replied. This is how I solve this problem. The argument lasted for hours. But in the end, 20 humans volunteered for the mission. Minho was one of them. Yuna was another. They knew they might die. But they were willing to pay that price for their planet. Sujin designed special bombs. They were very small, hidden inside false teeth. They could not be detected by Vorak scanners. When all 20 bombs exploded at the same time, they would create a chain reaction. The fuel tanks would explode. The control ship would be destroyed. The volunteers said goodbye to their families. Mothers cried. Fathers held their children tight, but no one tried to stop them. Everyone understood. This was the only way. They were captured 2 days later. The Vorak soldiers found them walking openly on the streets of Busan. They did not resist. They let the aliens take them. The journey to the control ship took 6 hours. Minho sat in a dark cell with the other prisoners. His heart was calm. He was not afraid anymore. Fear was a luxury he could not afford. Yuna sat next to him. She held his hand in the darkness. Are you ready? She whispered. Yes. He replied. Are you? I was born ready. They smiled at each other. It was strange. They were going to die. But they felt at peace. The control ship was even bigger than they imagined. It was like a floating city in the sky. Thousands of Vorak soldiers walked through its metal hallways. Weapons pointed in every direction. The prisoners were brought to a large holding area. There were hundreds of humans here, captured from different countries. They looked tired and scared. But when they saw the volunteers, something changed in their eyes. They saw hope. Minho studied the ship carefully. He counted the guards. He memorized the layout. The fuel room was deep inside the ship. They needed to get closer. One of the volunteers, a man named Doan, spoke to a guard. We want to speak to your commander, he said. We have information about human weapons, the guard laughed. It was an ugly sound. Humans have no weapons that can hurt us. Then you have nothing to fear from listening. The guard thought for a moment. Then he called his superior. The message went up the chain of command. Finally, an order came. Bring the humans to Commander Kron. It was exactly what they wanted. The 20 volunteers were brought deep into the ship. They passed through hallways filled with machines and soldiers. They passed the fuel room. Minho marked the location in his mind. Commander Kron sat on a large throne made of black metal. His 4 eyes stared at the humans with disgust. He was the most powerful Vorak alive. He had conquered empires. He had destroyed civilizations. But when he looked at these small, weak creatures, he felt that strange feeling again. They were not afraid. They should be afraid. Every species was afraid of the Vorak, but these humans looked at him with steady eyes. You have information for me? Kron asked. Doan stepped forward. Yes, Commander. I have very important information. Speak. Doan smiled. It was a cold smile. The smile of someone who has already accepted death. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity does not give up. And humanity never forgets. Kron frowned. What does that mean? It means goodbye. 20 humans bit down on their false teeth at the same time. 20 small bombs exploded. The explosion was not big enough to kill Kron, but it was big enough to break through the walls. Fire spread quickly. The fuel room was close. Kron screamed with rage as the humans died with smiles on their faces. The ship shook violently. Alarms screamed. Fires burned everywhere. And then the fuel tanks exploded. The control ship broke apart in the sky. A ball of fire lit up the Pacific Ocean. The explosion could be seen from space, all around the world. The Vorak ship stopped moving. They had lost their connection. They had lost their orders. They did not know what to do. Humans did. Every army on Earth attacked at once. Tanks rolled forward. Planes filled the sky. Soldiers charged with weapons raised. The Vorak were confused and scared. For the first time in their history, they felt what it was like to be prey. In the bunker, Sujin watched the reports come in. Tears ran down her face. 20 heroes had given their lives, but they had saved humanity. General Taiho bowed his head in silence. He would remember their names forever. Minho, Yuna, Doan, and 17 others. They were the bravest humans who ever lived. The war was not over yet, but the tide had turned. Humanity was fighting back, and humanity was winning. The last stand of Earth's the explosion threw Minho through the air. He crashed through a glass window and fell into the cold ocean below. The water was dark and freezing. He could not see anything. He could not breathe. He thought he was going to die, but something grabbed his arm. Something pulled him upward. When his head broke the surface, he gasped for air. He turned and saw Yuna. She was alive. She was bleeding, but she was alive. How? He managed to say. The explosion threw us out before the main blast, Yuna said. We are very lucky. They floated in the water for hours. Pieces of the destroyed control ship fell around them like burning rain. The sky was filled with fire and smoke. But they were alive. A human boat found them the next morning. When the soldiers pulled them aboard, they could not believe their eyes. 2 of the heroes had survived. The news spread around the world. Minho and Yuna were alive. It gave people hope. It made them fight harder. General Taiho welcomed them back with tears in his eyes. I thought you were dead, he said. I thought I lost you both. Humans are hard to kill, Yuna replied with a weak smile. The war had changed. Without the control ship, the Vorak were lost. Their commanders argued with each other. Their soldiers did not know what to do. Some ships tried to flee. Others crashed when their systems failed. But the war was not over. There were still thousands of Vorak soldiers on Earth. They were angry and scared. Angry and scared enemies were dangerous enemies. Minho needed time to heal. His body was broken in many places, but his mind was still sharp. He worked with Sujin to build new weapons. They studied the wreckage of Vorak ships. They learned the alien technology. Their shields are powered by a crystal, Sujin explained. If we can find a way to break the crystals, their shields will fail. Minho looked at the crystal under the microscope. It was beautiful, glowing with blue light. Sound, he said suddenly. High-frequency sound. It can break crystals. Sujin's eyes widened. You were right. If we create the right frequency, we can shatter every crystal within range. Every Vorak shield will fall. It worked for 3 days without sleep. They built a machine that could produce the exact sound frequency needed. It was small enough to fit in a backpack. It was powerful enough to change the war. Yuna led the first team to use the new weapon. She walked into a battle where human soldiers were trapped by Vorak shields. She pressed the button on the machine. The sound was too high for human ears, but the effect was immediate. Every Vorak shield flickered and died. The crystals inside their armor shattered. For the first time, the aliens were exposed. The human soldiers did not waste the chance. They attacked with everything they had. The Vorak, confused and unprotected, fell quickly. Word of the new weapons spread fast. Engineers around the world began building more machines. Suddenly, the Vorak shields were useless. Suddenly, humans had the advantage. Commander Crone had died in the explosion of the control ship, but other Vorak commanders remained. The strongest was a female warrior named Veth. She had 4 arms instead of 2. She had killed more enemies than any other Vorak alive. Veth called a meeting with the remaining Vorak leaders. They gathered in a ship that floated above the Atlantic Ocean. Humans are defeating us, one commander said. His voice was filled with shame. This has never happened before. They are weak creatures, another commander argued. We have better weapons, better soldiers, better ships. Sveth raised one of her 4 hands. The room became silent. They are not weak, she said. They are different. We measure strength by size and power. They measure strength by something else. What? A commander asked. Well, Veth replied, the will to keep fighting even when they cannot win. The will to sacrifice themselves for others. The will to never surrender. We do not understand this. We have never faced this before. The commanders looked at each other. They were proud warriors, but they were beginning to see the truth. Humans were not like other species. Humans could not be conquered by force alone. What do we do? A young commander asked. Veth was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke words that had never been spoken in Vorak history. We leave. The commanders were shocked. Leave the Vorak Empire, never retreated. The Vorak Empire never admitted defeat. This planet is not worth the cost, Veth continued. We have lost too many ships. Too many soldiers? For what? A small planet with strange creatures who refuse to die? No, we will leave. We will tell the Empire that this planet is protected. No Vorak will ever come here again. It was a shameful decision. But it was a smart decision. The Vorak had learned a painful lesson. Some species could not be conquered. On Earth, humans watched as the Vorak ships began to rise. One by one, they left the atmosphere. They flew away into the darkness of space. Mish stood with Yuna on a hillside, watching the ships disappear. The sun was setting. The sky was painted with orange and red. Are they really leaving? Yuna asked. I think so, Minho replied. Will they come back? Minho thought about the question. Maybe, someday, but we will be ready. We will always be ready. Yuna leaned her head on his shoulder. They were tired. They were broken. But they were alive. And they had won. The last Vorak ship disappeared into the stars. The war was over. But the story of humanity was just beginning. The last stand of Earth part. 5 years had passed since the Vorak invasion. The world had changed forever. Cities were rebuilt. Farms grew food again. Children played in the streets without fear. But humans never forgot what happened. They never forgot the price they paid for freedom. Minch stood at the entrance of the Global Memorial. It was a massive structure built in the center of Seoul, right where the first Vorak ships had appeared. The names of every human who died in the war were carved into its walls. Millions of names. Each one a hero. He found the names he was looking for. Doan, the 17 others who died on the control ship. His friends. His brothers and sisters. He touched their names gently. Yuna walked up beside him. She was wearing a military uniform now. She had become one of the highest-ranking generals in the new United Earth Defense Force. The world was no longer divided into countries that fought each other. Now, all humans stood together. The ceremony starts in 1 hour, Yuna said softly. I know, Minho replied. I just wanted to see them first. The ceremony was to celebrate the launch of humanity's first starship. Not a ship built for war, but a ship built for exploration. Humans were going to the stars. They were going to find new worlds. They were going to meet other species. Sujin had led the project. She had studied Vorak technology for years. She had combined it with human engineering. The result was a ship faster and stronger than anything the Vorak had ever built. Humans had learned from their enemies, and they had improved. The starship was called Hope. It was beautiful. Long and silver, it sat on the launch pad like a sleeping dragon, ready to wake up and fly. General Taiho, now very old, gave the opening speech. His voice was weak, but his words were strong. 5 years ago, we faced extinction. An enemy came from the stars to destroy us. They thought we were weak. They thought we would surrender. They were wrong. The crowd cheered. Thousands of people had come to watch the launch. Some had lost family in the war. Some had fought as soldiers. All of them were survivors. Today, we take our first step into the galaxy, not as conquerors, not as slaves, but as explorers, as builders, as humans. We go in peace, but we are ready for war. We offer friendship, but we never forget who we are. More cheering. Minho felt tears in his eyes. He remembered the fear he felt when the ships first appeared. He remembered thinking the world was ending, but it did not end. Humanity survived. Humanity always survived. After the speech, The crew of Hope walked to the ship. There were 50 humans chosen for the mission. Scientists, engineers, doctors, soldiers, the best of the best. They would travel for years, exploring new planets, meeting new species. The captain of Hope was a young woman named Hannah. She was only 30 years old, but she had proven herself in the war. She had destroyed 3 Vorak ships by herself. She was brave, smart, and kind. She was the perfect choice. Hannah stopped in front of Minho and Yuna. "We will make you proud," she said. Yuna nodded. "We already are." Minho shook Hannah's hand. "Find them," he said. "Find other species like us. Species who fight for freedom. Species who never give up. We are not alone in this galaxy. There must be others." Hannah smiled. "I will." The engines of Hope roared to life. The ground shook. The crowd held their breath. Slowly the ship began to rise. It climbed higher and higher, leaving a trail of fire behind it. Then it was gone. Just a small dot of light in the blue sky. Minho watched until the dot disappeared. He imagined what Hannah and her crew would find out there. New worlds. New species. Maybe some would be enemies. Maybe some would be friends. But whatever they found, they would face it as humans. Strong, stubborn, unbreakable. That night, Minho and Yuna sat on the roof of their home. The stars were bright and beautiful. Somewhere out there, Hope was flying toward the unknown. "Do you think the Vorak will ever come back?" Yuna asked. "Maybe," Minho said. "But if they do, we will be ready. We have learned. We have grown. We are not the same species they invaded 5 years ago. What are we now?" Minho thought about the question. He thought about everything humanity had survived. Ice ages, diseases, wars, aliens. They had been knocked down 1,000 times. And they had stood up 1,001 times. "We are survivors," he said finally. "We are fighters. We are dreamers. We are humans." Yuna smiled and took his hand. "Humanity, huh? We are something special." Minho looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien species were telling stories about Earth. Stories about the small planet with the strange creatures who could not be conquered. Stories about the humans who fought against impossible odds and won. The Vorak had spread the word across the galaxy. Earth was protected. Earth was dangerous. Earth was not to be touched, but humans did not want to be feared. They wanted to be understood. They wanted to explore and learn and grow. They wanted to find their place in the universe, and they would. Step by step, star by star, humans would keep moving forward, because that was what humans did. They never stopped. They never surrendered. They never gave up. The war was over, but the adventure was just beginning. Minho closed his eyes and listened to the wind. Somewhere in his heart, he could hear the voices of all the humans who came before him. The hunters, the farmers, the builders, the dreamers. They had all fought so that he could be here, looking up at the stars. And now it was humanity's turn to give something back to the universe. They would explore. They would discover. They would protect. Because humans were not just survivors, they were the future.